It's 2024, the start of a new season of BMW M Performance Parts Race Series, and it's the start of a brand new show. I'm your host, Philippa Guana, welcoming you to the first episode of BMW Club TV. So, what is BMW Club TV all about? Well, let's tell you.
So in 2022, Brandsponential got the social media contract for the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series. We were working with another company who was doing the rest of the PR work at the time, but as time progressed in the opening season of our contract, we started including little video elements into the social media package, especially on race weekends.
Our videos started off at Makisa Freeway in Melbourne, where we did a recap of the weekend, and it went down fairly well. So we did another one, which highlighted what happened at the BMW M Fest at Kyalami.
In 2023, we took over the entire media contract. However, one of the requirements from the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series was to bring in video elements, particularly a show.
The one thing that we ended up looking for our recap videos initially was a presenter. We tried a couple of people locally, but they just didn't quite fit with what we were really looking for.
It was around the start of the 2023 season that we actually had another social media issue to resolve, that I brought in one of our consultants, Philippa Guana, who I've particularly worked with her for a couple of years already in motorsport and with another South African category, and she is one of the best. As it turns out, we had a chat about it with the BMW Race Series committee, and the proposal was put forward: why don't we get Philippa to anchor our pre-race show?
It really was an easy conversation between Ray and I about being part of the program last year. We've been friends for a really long time. Like when I was running TV and communications for Global Touring Cars, he was my right-hand man. We've been friends ever since, and even though I haven't been in South Africa for I think like 5 or 6 years, we still talk all the time. I know what's happening in motorsport in South Africa. I keep an eye on the happenings. Got so many friends there, and it really was exciting to hear all of the ideas that he had for the BMW Car Club Gauteng's YouTube channel. And then when he asked for help, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do whatever I can. Then he asked me to be the presenter. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're gonna have some fun with all these names again. But look, I love motorsport in South Africa. I've got so many friends in the country, so it's been a real pleasure to be part of the program for the last 12 months.
At the beginning of the 2023 season, just a week before the first event, we had the prize giving for the 2022 season. This provided the basis of the first show that we did, as a lot of the race footage that we had from 2022 was no longer available to us due to me having a break-in at my home office and the computers and backup disks being stolen in that break-in.
And on Thursday, the 26th of January, our first BMW M Performance Parts Race Series pre-race show went out.
Initially, the idea was to preview the race weekend that lies ahead, while also taking a deeper look at the sponsors involved with the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series.
For the later shows in the year, we did have race footage available to us, which made it easier for us to showcase what had happened in previous events.
Yeah, and then the voiceover happens, right? So it is an interesting process of putting a show together, whether it's for TV or for YouTube. The voiceover audio file is virtually the backbone of the program, and then all the pictures are edited to it. So I'm not in South Africa. I don't see the racing. I don't know who's fighting for points or the stories that are being told. So I'm virtually reading this script blind and just imagining what's happening with the storytelling that I'm trying to deliver for Ray and the team to put the show together. So I do use lots of different radio studios. I'm on radio in Sydney and Australia. So in between my talk breaks, I'll jump on and record something, or I've got a studio at home. So virtually within a day of getting the scripts, I find myself somewhere, record it, 15 minutes done, and sent it off, and off the rest of the program happens.
Last in the line, everything came back to me to put the entire show together. Now, this might sound very easy, but trust me, this is sometimes the most difficult part of it all. Filippo would have voice recordings to me, I would have all the race footage, and we would have done all our recordings, but obviously you want to work in some B-roll, and sometimes you have some real challenges there of thinking, wait, I know about this clip that we had in the race, it was between these people, when was that again? And you sit there scrolling through footage for like an hour straight, just trying to find a particular 5 seconds. That really did present its challenges, but I suppose it is one of the nice things about having an eidetic memory.
Pronunciations. Yeah, it is interesting when I see people's names for the first time and have to guess how to say it. So there's lots of WhatsApp messages backwards and forwards between Reynard and myself. Did I get this person's name right? Did I get that person's name right? I know the basics from having worked in South Africa for 3 years previously, but there are lots of outtakes that you're not going to be hearing, that's for sure.
When we did the interviews with the drivers and the people that run race workshops and that kind of thing, there were quite often quite a few challenges. The guys are not used to being on camera, so we had to try and draw things out of them, and then others, they took to the camera like a duck to water, but we couldn't get them to stop talking. So it all presented a few challenges.
Other challenges that we also face, which are sometimes out of our control, are last minute changes to the race weekend itself, and these are like program changes, entries. We would like have something scripted, something recorded, and whoops, we're getting another driver who's making his debut this weekend, we're getting another big driver for this championship, the races are being split, all that sort of stuff. It all sort of adds to some of the elements that we need to include in the whole package.
For me, the first season didn't have any particular highlight, but the whole season and working with the group of drivers, mechanics, that kind of thing, they became far more than just clients. They became friends, almost family. We were together 8-9 times a year at race circuits, many other times at time trials, all sorts of things. We really got to know a fantastic group of people who in themselves are not just there for racing. If something goes wrong, everybody's in to help each other. It's just such a fantastic atmosphere in the group.
Some of the highlights for me personally for the year also included, I mean, it's a whole group of friends, and I think that sort of one of the big things for that was it the round 4 show of 2023 that we interviewed Leonard Archer while we were in Welkom, and we did this whole clip, and while we were recording it, I'm sitting thinking, okay, what do we need for B-roll for this? What do we need for B-roll for that? And there's this one part where Leonard talks about everyone in Welkom just always greeting him like, hey Archie. And one of our photographers traveled along that weekend, Jason Hanslow, quite a good guy. We've been working with him for quite some years, but I never knew I would be able to line him up as an actor. And I just went and talked to him and staged this whole thing of Leonard walking down the street, Archie coming the other way, and Jason just walking up to him like, hey Archie, how are you doing? And I think a lot of those candid things which can happen, especially when there's this great relationship and chemistry between everyone, that was really a highlight for me of doing the first season of a show.
I think the highlight for me is just putting the show together in itself, because it proves that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can still make great content. You know, I'm all the way over in Australia. I haven't been to South Africa since 2019, but we can still work together and make amazing content that makes a difference, and it tells people's stories. And I think when you've got a category that really wants to show the masses how great it is, you need to have behind the scenes storytelling and vision and give more than just the racing. So much effort has been put into the pre-race shows all throughout 2023, and I guarantee 2024 is going to be bigger and better.
Of course, a challenge which came in especially as we headed to the close of the 2023 season, was you've got so many sponsors, you've got to keep it entertaining. You don't just want to do that, and we were really looking at what we wanted to do for 2024, and I just came around to the idea of thinking, okay, we've got 2 shows to go, let's change things up a bit, let's bring in a few new things, and let's sort of start paving the way for a new direction.
After the slight changes that we made to the last 2 shows in 2023, we had a meeting with Bernard and Varesh late in the year to discuss our ideas about how we would go forward for 2024 and bring in more about the club itself, the BMW Car Club in Gauteng, and not just focus purely on racing and the race series itself.
With the BMW Performance Sports Race Series being part of the whole BMW Car Club Gauteng as like a much bigger social group, you obviously have some other things which you also do during the year. Some of those are time trials, I think that's skid pan, concourse, and we've recorded a lot of video footage for that, which at the time was aired as like a standalone 5 to 10 minute thing, and we just sort of thought, nah, it sort of looks like it's like the abandoned child. Why not maybe throw that in and do like a full package for BMW in Performance Sports Race Series and the club on a monthly basis?
Most of the sponsorship money that comes in is in a large part due to the race series, but without the BMW Gauteng Car Club, there wouldn't be a race series.
I think it's always important to keep evolving when you're creating content. Doesn't matter whether it's social media, television, YouTube features, you've always got to come up with new ideas and provide a fresh perspective season on season. So this year we have had a number of discussions, and our new name is going to be the BMW Club TV. We'll have 12 episodes. There's 1 per month. We'll feature the racing series. We'll also show a lot of stuff behind the scenes about what the car club has been up to recently. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting bringing more content, more information and more entertainment to the program.
Doing a monthly show also allows us to showcase more of the club activities. And we can do things like the social karting that happens, what will be in July, Christmas in July, with a club event in Clarence in the Free State. That kind of thing, which allows everybody to see how the club as a whole is a big family as well. It's not just the race series.
There's always new things to learn about the car club and about the racing season, so I'm really looking forward to working with the team again and building on the foundations that we laid in 2023 and just showing all the value and investment that really is driving the BMW Car Club Gauteng forward in 2024.
2024 is going to be a big year for the championship, and not just in the sense of the racing itself. We've got some new partners that we brought on. Quite a big one with ZF Aftermarket. We've got a whole lot of races. We've got a packed calendar with races coming up. We've got some new things that we want to do, and we really want to take not just the BMW Club TV show, but also the race series and the club. We really want to go higher. One of the things that I firmly believe in is every year do something bigger and better than what you've done before, and this is certainly a trend that we want to set with BMW Car Club Gauteng for 2024 and going forward.
Indeed, in these coming 11 episodes, we'll have a lot to showcase about the BMW Car Club Gauteng, the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series, and everyone involved. But the changes you can expect are not limited to our media coverage. There are indeed a host of changes in this year's BMW M Performance Parts Race Series, and we caught up with Bernard de Gouveia to talk us through some of them.
And once again, we start a new chapter in the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series as we kick off the 2024 year. Firstly, I'd like to welcome some new sponsors to the category, being ZF and their associate sponsors, ZF After Sales. And also I'd like to welcome all the new drivers into the series. We've got a number of new drivers that have either bought cars or built new cars to come and join us. And obviously there's old cars now available, so if you're anyone looking for a car to come and join the series, come chat to us. We'll send you over to the guys selling cars. But yeah, it's a great season ahead. We had a wonderful 2023 with big fields, and I'm looking forward to 2024 and carrying on with the big fields that we've had. Right now for the 2024 season, we do have some rule changes. Firstly, because of the big fields in 2023, we split the classes. It was ABC and then D and E in a separate race. For 2024, we're going to try something different with A and C being in one race, and then classes B, D and E in the second race. So that's something new for 2024. Some other rule changes regarding tyres. Dunlop full slicks for Class A. The rest of the classes will remain on the Dunlop semi-slicks. Then regarding the breakout times, we've had a few changes. Class B is now, we dropped the breakout by a significant number, so it's quite low, but the other classes we dropped by about 1 second. And then we've also done away with the joker. So if you break out, that's it, goodbye, you go to the next class. There's no chances, no half a second chance, nothing. You go straight to your new class. And then the other thing is we're introducing with championships points is after the event, we're going to award each class the fastest driver or fastest lap for per race, per class, an additional point. So it works out to, it adds up to your overall championships points. So we're also trying to encourage the guys to go as fast as they can to move up into their classes or the class they should be in. That's the aim for 2024. And for 2024, the calendar is quite an intense one. We're possibly having 10 rounds. So we start off now at Passion for Speed, end of January. And then later on in the year, we've got Killarney. I think it's in August. So it's our first time going to Killarney. We started this last year with having one coastal round in the championships. We went to PE. So we're looking forward to going to Killarney this year. And then we possibly have 2 Kyalamis. The one being in April at the Extreme Festival, and then the M-Fest late in the year, and then our normal Red Stars and Swartkorps race days. So, yeah, action-packed year coming up.
Following our chat with Bernard, there were a few changes to our calendar. At this point, our season will consist of 9 rounds, with one of our Kyalami Grand Prix circuit rounds falling away. However, you will catch our drivers in action on these dates. This weekend's season opener will also mark our 3rd season with BMW South Africa as our naming rights partner. In the past 2 years, the size of our grid has increased, while we have also seen an influx of new and younger competitors joining the ranks. The BMW M Performance Parts Race Series is indeed delivering on the promise of promoting the BMW lifestyle to a bigger market. We recently visited BMW South Africa's Rob Gearing to talk about the year ahead.
So a good point of discussion that came up in the various discussions that we've had was one around, apart from the BMW SA and BMW Car Club Gauteng collaboration in terms of the BMW Race Performance or M Performance Race Series, what other collaborations have we had together, and how's that helped to grow the BMW brand as a whole? When I reflect back on 2023 a little bit, I think about some of the time trial days that were held. I think about the skid pan days that were held at the X-Drive Park, and even the very successful end of year sponsor function day for the race series that was held at the X-Drive Park on the waterless skid pan that we have there. It's a really great collaboration that has formed, I think, over the last 2 years of our race series sponsorship, and one which I'm confident going forward into 2024 we can build on even further. We had a good cooperation and collaboration with the National Concours that took place from the BMW Car Club at the X-Drive Park at Waterfall, and we really look forward to how we can build on those collaborations even further going forward into 2024. So if I think high level, it's really exciting always to get the guys to X-Drive Park, to use the waterless skid pan, to see what our X-Drive vehicles are capable of. It's a good platform for both our products and those really enthusiastic and motivated BMW brand ambassadors who are such strong members of the club, and looking forward to further collaborations, particularly with the M-Fest in mind going forward. M-Festival still to be confirmed, but something to really look forward to, and just continue building the great relationship that we have together. Thank you from BMW South Africa to BMW Car Club Gauteng, and in fact to all of the car clubs that are BMW affiliated in South Africa.
Our first round will form part of the de facto opening round of the circuit racing calendar, the 23rd Passion for Speed event at the Swartkops International World of Motorsport. This marks the fourth consecutive occasion that the BMW M Performance Parts Race Series has been invited to join the roster. Oddly enough, our first Passion for Speed event in 2021 saw the weekend rescheduled to June, one of the many calendar changes brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting restriction. However, apart from that event, which also formed part of the 19-month prohibition on spectator attendance, the Passion for Speed is one of the annual highlights for motorsport fans. Who better to tell us more about the event than the facility's owner who started the event, Peter du Toit.
Swartkops is, we don't know in life how and some of our inspirations come. Mine came from when I was a little boy, and I think, subject to correction, I must be the only one still alive that was at the 1948 street race that they had on the Rand Airport Road just shortly after the Second World War. And I was only 4 or 5 years old. I remember, as small as I was, and today still I had a temper tantrum because I didn't like the noise of the racing cars, which disgusted my dad because he was an ex-racing and motorcyclist. But through the 50s I grew up with motorsport through my father. I was always going to be involved in motorsport. It was my passion. I was there for the first 9 hour at Grand Central. I was there for the last race at Grand Central. When my father died in '59, it was a big setback for me. But in 1962, I decided to build my own racing car. I knew absolutely nothing. I built a car, but it was useless. Something that came out of the backyard. And then I raced in the 60s, in the mid 60s, but of course, as with happened so many of us youngsters, we run out of money. And I ran totally out of money, and then I decided I better grow up, and I then studied and I established a business career. But around about 1980, I got very frustrated as a golfer because it didn't move fast enough, the game, and it was too time consuming as far as I was concerned and all the practice. So I said to my wife one Saturday morning, because I always had to be the first 4-ball to tee off, and it was the middle of winter and it was bitterly cold, and I was leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to the course. And I said, this is the last day I'm playing golf. I'm going back to motor racing, which she was still in bed, and she sat up and said, good. I'm done. You're suffering from dementia. You're too old. But I did start racing again, and particularly historics, because those were the cars that appealed to me, and they were the cars of my youth that I could never afford. And by that stage, I was financially much better off, and so I started racing again. But then the walls of being able to the barriers to entry were phenomenal. You'd enter for a race at Kyle Army, you had a practice at 8 o'clock in the morning, and your race was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they put all sorts of other events on ahead of you. So at 6:30 and it's dark, you get your race, and of course obviously you had 3 laps on that to stop you. And we were just messed around. It was, how anybody survived that I don't know. But in the late 80s with David Cohn and Gary Dunkley, we took over the old Swartkorps driving, because Swartkorps was established in 1961, 2 weeks after Kyle Army opened. But obviously could never compete with Kyle Army. And we bought the old driving circuit. It was cut in half by then, but then we established the circuit for what we had in terms of resources, half the size, twice the fun, and it worked exceptionally well. But of course, for the powers that be with under AA Motorsport, they soon interfered because Kyle Army was the hallowed ground, and they took our nationals away. So I closed Swartkorps down in the 90s. But I got proclamation as a racetrack, and so I had the proclamation. We had the property, and so I relented in 1999, and we built Swartkorps that we have today. I wanted a facility that was accessible, that every competitor gets respected, is properly organized, and as far as possible is affordable, and it is practical. So for me, as a corporate, being very heavy in the corporate market, I didn't have time to take off Thursday and Friday, go practice. And I built Swartkorps on the concept that you arrive on a Saturday morning, you unload your car, you scrutineer, you do your documentation, you practice, you race, you go home, all concentrated into one day. But a great day. I've had a great day's motorsport. And that was the concept, and Swartkorps has worked in that respect. Obviously, when you get to certain events, many people do take time off from work and practice on a Wednesday afternoon or on a Friday, but that's at their discretion, except when it comes to the international, that we'll talk about, if that is a different concept altogether, as an event. But Swartkorps is a national circuit. It runs certain types of international events, but a more sort of down, they're participative. I use the word participative, that for the participative motorist, that he wants to go motor racing and invest in cars, both here and abroad. And over the years, a lot of people have come to South Africa at this time of the year. As an app I had yesterday from somebody, we can't wait to come to South Africa. Please order the sun, because that's so bitterly cold in Europe. And I thought, well, we'll have to pray about that one, because I see a lot of cloud and rain around, but I will say yes, there will be sun. But they've come, and they come to South Africa, and they spend money in South Africa. Some of them actually even bought homes down in the Cape, so because they just love being in South Africa. So there are a lot of spin-off of the local engineering. The thing is that we have built cars. The original racing cars that we had here 20 years ago, they're all in museums, or they're far, far too valuable to race today. So we have built continuation of those particular cars. They conform to what the international cars were, except that here and there you're going to have to compromise because those components are no longer available. And it's become an export industry for South Africa, and there's there's 3 or 4 very profound manufacturers of continuation racing cars here in South Africa. Just offhand, I can think of 5. And they're using South Africa ingenuity, and these cars are recognized globally. So much so that I'm a little bit concerned that too many of the cars are leaving the country, although they are, albeit that they are continuation cars. But and the fact that we promote sport, and we are very, very, very focused, not only the participant, but also those that have got aspiration to do great things. They believe in themselves, they believe that they're globally competitive, and you can see that from the Binders. Trevor and his two sons, Brad and Darren, used to race your father and son when they were little boys, still at Swartkorps. So many people cut their teeth here at Swartkorps and move on to far greater things abroad. So it's that aspiration is a very, very important part for us, and we do encourage it. And we've got BE initiatives that we work at it constantly. That is Swartkorps. It's for the people. It's practical, affordable, and accessible. And I think it's really appreciated by everybody, anybody that's involved in circuit racing. We call it the passion for speed, but it's originally started with the David Piper International. Now that goes back way back into the 80s, the late 80s, when David Piper returned to South Africa. David Piper was an icon and as a privateer in the world of motorsport, and what he achieved, even Enzo Ferrari called him the Englishman. But the Englishman could drive, and the Englishman always had a green Ferrari. And those are the cars that really excited us at the old Kyle Army and in the 9 hours. He brought the Ferrari to South Africa, the GTO, first of all with brother Bruce Johnson, and then with Tony Maggs, and then afterwards he brought other Ferraris with John Love and Peter de Klerk drove. But I mean, and then his long association with Richard Atwood. We got one of his Richard Atwood's BRMs racing with us this coming weekend. But it was the David Piper International. Obviously, I was inspired about it in 1988, and I had close associations with David and Piper and Mike Knight. That was his partner. Mike Knight was a very good racing driver in his day, and he also had the Winfield Racing School in Europe. And so through their contacts in 2002, we had our first David Piper International here, and David brought a lot of cars. We didn't have too many in South Africa of our own type of those type of cars. Today is a lot different, because of the because of our continuation models and developments. But the response from the public with the David Piper those initial years were unbelievable. We couldn't believe the queues on the road for people queuing to get in. Look, obviously there was not much by way of television, and there was no live streaming or anything to that effect, or YouTubes. But over the years, David has got, his time has marched on. And David and Liz and Mike Knight will be here next week. They're coming out especially for this event. Obviously, David is retired. He's still got some of his cars, but he has not, but he doesn't race them any longer. They are extremely valuable. I'd hate to think how many, what they're worth today, his collection, which is stored in an old church hall, just to make it, to justify it, I guess, and it's got holy connotations to you in terms of those Ferraris that he has got. But it was David Piper International. But over the years, this event has marched on David is retired. Many of the people that came out with him are also now retired. They sold their cars have gone in collections. And so it has evolved into the passion for speed. Now that's very important for us, that we have a passion for speed. We've got international competitors. They come out every year. We've got the Dutch and the Swedes and the British that will be with us, and I believe there's one or two Italians with us. They just haven't just told us what they're driving. We bring the cars out. They have a second leg in Cape Town. The passion for speed is involved. It's got to take motor racing by the way we know it in South Africa from the 50s through to where we are with the contemporaries. So you will find on the program the pre-65 sports and GT cars, which 65, 68, they have the Lamar Sebring cars, the Ford GT40s, the Cobras, the Daytonas. These are cars that emerged in the 60s that were faster than Formula One. And that applies to international sports prototypes, the Porsches 917, the RSRs, the Chevrons and the Lolas. That was an unbelievable time of motor racing in those years. The ingenuity, the variety, and it was, I think, worldwide it was professional in one sense, but not in another. It was all cut and dried, but it produced a phenomenal motor racing internationally. So we embrace that in the day, but there's also the contemporary side of things. And therefore we have in the program, it's very important, is the BMW, which the challenge, I mean, it's one of the biggest fields that you can expect, and it's highly competitive, and it's an unbelievable spectacle, and the drivers and the people participating. Then we go on also to the extreme supercars, which is the modern GT3 cars. They form part of it. So you have the full spectrum from the 50s through the 60s, through the 70s, 80s, 90s, you name it, and to the current contemporary GT3 cars. One of the very big attractions here was that, and I remember so well, 1963, November 1963, they brought a big 7-litre Galaxy to Kyalami for Jack Sears and Paul Hawkins. And nobody could believe that this 2-ton motor car was going to do the 9 hour. It didn't come finish it, blew head gaskets, it got too hot. But I mean, the amount of public interest that created. And I was very fortunate that I found a factory Galaxy, on 63 Galaxy with a 7-litre motor. I found one. We still don't know the exact history how it ever got here. We think it was a backup car for Bobby Althoff, but it never materialized. It was they retired the car in 64, 5. But we have put the car into the colors of the Althoff Wilmot car of the day, and Sarah Farnham has driven it. Lee Thompson drives it today, and that has attracted such interest that it led to other Galaxies being built, the Chev Camaros, the Novas, the Mercury Comets and Cougars, the Chevs and Studebakers, all of those early days, the early late 50s and the early 60s of NASCAR. They're the NASCAR cars. But NASCAR doesn't need brakes. And that was the big shock to us. There's no ways that you can run these cars on the original drum brakes, because as Sarah showed us, the brakes are gone after 3-4 laps. And reading the history, you find that was what happened with Bobby Althoff at Kyalami against the Lotus Cortinas of Basil van Rooyen and Koos Sonnepoel. That race would start, it was a 10-lap race, and he would disappear into the distance. Cortinas couldn't keep up. And then from about lap 6, he started to slow, and they caught him. They would catch him and wear him down simply because They had no brakes. The car wouldn't stop. It was too heavy, and it was drum brakes. So we've converted those cars to disc brakes. So it just makes it a little bit easier to drive, but they still don't handle. You got to bump them off the curbs to get the direction you really need. So it's very exciting. We got 18 of those cars in one race next week. But that's a huge crowd. Draws a crowd, the attention of the crowd, and that's all part and part of the sheer variety and the dimension. Right down to the little giants, these little Austins, the Minis, the Minis and the Cortinas, and the Alphas of that age. And they're all giant killers. We saw that also in the past. The moment it rained, those are cars came on their own, and they used to beat the big V8s or those bigger cars that just didn't like the wet, whereas smaller cars were far more easier to drive in the wet and are far more competitive. So it's a full spectrum. It's very exciting. We have opened the track to Friday night. We have drifting. And people have access into the pits. That was for me always as a child a huge problem, because I was never allowed into the pits. You had to have a special ticket to get into the pits. And then, you could never get near the drivers or the cars. Zwartkops is not like that. You must have access to man and machine and try and interact with them. Then you feel you're part of it. And so that is part of the whole philosophy. But the passion for speed is a product of the David Piper International.
Peter's dedication to affordable, enjoyable, participative motoring is one of the reasons why this is such a successful venue. But let's look at the drivers who'll look to write a successful first chapter to the 2024 season. At last year's Passion for Speed event, Leon Loebscher dominated throughout the weekend, and this year he'll look to start his BMW M Performance Parts Race Series title defence by repeating his dominance in Class A. Class B's Nick McCrease will also look to defend his title, but can expect fierce competition from 2023 rivals Andreas Meyer and Renier Smith. Anton Pommersheim is eager to start his second season. Lorenzo Gualtieri was victorious in his last outing at the circuit, while Carlo Garbini will make his first appearance since last year's second round. Nicholas Fischer will have his Class C rivals Troy Cochrane, Hein van der Merwe, Gary Martins and Alan Hilligan back for company. Last year's series runner-up and Class D champion Reynard Miller will also join the Class C battle this year. With Miller now in Class C, can Nicholas Herbst step up to the top of Class D in 2024? Not if Shane Krobler, George Economides and Neil Reynolds have anything to say about it. Tian Snell, who improved with each outing in his debut season, will also be searching for his maiden win. Arie van Heerden will also look to defend his Class E title against a host of regular and new drivers. BMW South Africa advanced driving instructor Cristiano Verolini will debut in the series behind the wheel of our track taxi. Saturday will see a packed roster with qualifying already taking place on Friday afternoon. Scan this code to purchase your tickets. They'll also be available at the Zwartkops International World of Motoring entrance gate on the weekend. If you're not able to join us, you can tune in to Saturday's live broadcast on both our Facebook pages and the Two Wheels TV YouTube channel. Our BMW M Performance Parts Race Series season opener will start a busy month for the BMW Car Club Gauteng with our social go-karting endurance challenge and our first Expel South Africa BMW Car Club Gauteng track day also ahead in February. See our full 2024 events calendar by scanning this code. We wish all our drivers all the best for the BMW and Performance Parts Race Series season opener. From me, Philippa Guana, and all the team, it's goodbye until next month.